Hello, everybody out there, and welcome to yet another Fundamentalist Puzzle. We're putting the fun in fundamentalism, if that's at all possible. So good to see you. Today's my favorite day. I love Fridays. I really do. It might not be Friday where you are. Don't panic. Don't panic. It's not, you're not in a time dilation situation. It might not be a time travel thing. It may be Thursday where you are, and I love it anyway. So, t today I saw this thing by Frank Turek and I put it on the back burner a while, and it seems like he's doing Charlie Kirk stuff recently, as everybody's doing. It's a huge thing. I've made my thoughts clear in other streams, but I I sort of I think that it is amazing to me the current thinking of fundamentalists around evolution. It really is. Like, it is incredible just how old and tired their arguments are, but it is kind of hilarious. And Frank Turek is one of these people that he's got no business being in any kind of science related field. He's got no understanding of most scientific things. And he still wants to comment on it, but it sort of makes it hilarious. Now, I think that Turek, he's sort of copped a bit on the sort of, standing up to people like Alex O'Connor, and he's got his, obviously got his ass kicked by somebody that's in academia doing philosophy. So he's kind of gone back to his old standard, well, let's go into colleges, get bunches of students together and tell them a whole bunch of crap that, may sound sort of convincing to people that don't know any better, to people who haven't studied, to people who haven't actually been in that, not experts in the field, but really they're just terrible. Now, before we start, don't forget to like, subscribe, do something else. I don't know. Touch yourself. I don't care. Do something, because we've got to get this ball rolling, and it really does help me out. So please do something. Look, you don't have to do anything. I'm asking, not demanding. It's all good, but it's great to see you all, and it's going to be a fantastic Friday. Now, I must say, the original clip I got was really short, so I decided to grab another couple. I'll extend them out, but this may be a bit of a shorter one. Just, please forgive me. I kind of had not a lot of sleep last night, so I am very tired, and I'm sort of glad I'm doing this. But I wanna really get you to pay attention to the old Frankenstein as he stumbles. Like, the best you can say is he stumbles, but he really does go after these students, and he's back at his old, let's go to a college, let's go to a university, let's find, first year students and sort of, absolutely fail at showing them why they're wrong about something. Now, so I'm just going to get this organized. Yeah, all right. So keep in mind, this is the kind of stuff that he does. He'll pack a room full of people, and make these really terrible arguments at colleges and at sort of things. So it kind of is it's really funny to me, that he gets these people up and asks this. Now, the title of this video, and keep in mind, the title's hilarious. Like, it is actually hilarious. It's the Frank Turek unpacks the four best arguments against evolution. Why theologians keep getting sort of, tangled up in evolution is a little bit beyond me, a little bit. But yeah, it's sus. Who's Charlie Kirk? Yeah. Well, the latest thing he's done. Look, I'm not gonna pick on somebody. Obviously, he lost a friend. I think Charlie Kirk was he had some horrible ideas, some absolutely horrible ideas, but there's human beings that are hurt, and I don't want to pile on the hurt. I think it's just not a good thing to do. Guy looks like Harry Potter? Yeah, a little. I mean, if Harry Potter, smoked a lot of weed and grew out a sort of, little beard, a jazz beard, maybe. I don't know. Like, maybe it is the boy that lived. I don't know. I would seriously want some magic to make it through a Frank Turek frigging speech. Anyway, let's get started. Let's do it.
You said you believe in an old Earth, and that the Bible doesn't really prescribe a certain age of the Earth. So I would just want to know how you kind of knit together the idea of like old Earth, the Genesis account, perhaps even evolution. Is there a historical Adam, whatnot?
So Frank Turek believes in an old Earth. Okay, so he's not a young Earth creationist, right? But this is the weird part. This is really weird. The weird part is that he's saying, hey, I believe in an old Earth, 4.5, 4.6 billion years, but no evolution. And I really would like to know how that works. Why the fossil record, for instance, why it has only sort of mollusks down the bottom, and then to fish, then to sort of mammals up the top, and sort of birds up the very top. Like, why can you not find the Precambrian rabbit, right? Like that's the question. Like, why are they in order? So if you're an old Earth creationist, you sort of think, okay, well, the stratification is right? Like it's just, that's been laid down over millions of years. It's very straightforward. But he doesn't think that evolution's a thing. It's very strange. It's very weird. Unless he thinks that evolution for animals is accurate, but not for humans. Like, humans were created later for some reason, or they were, Adam and Eve. Like, it's really bewildering to hear this kind of stuff. Like, oh, I believe in an old Earth, but not in evolution. Well, how do you think that the animals got here then? They were created like millions of years ago? It's kind of weird, right?
Of course I believe in a historical Adam, and I think God created Adam out of the dust, just like it says. It makes a lot more sense than natural laws did it.
Really? Really? Oh, yes. God magicked humans out of dust. That makes a lot more sense than natural laws, because we've never seen natural laws before. This is the thing. We've got all of this science showing that natural laws are a thing. Like, hey, this is natural laws govern the movement of planetary bodies. It governs the movement of chemical reactions. It governs them, like all of this kind of stuff. But it makes much more sense that magic did it, that somehow divinely created. Have you ever seen anything divinely created before? Have you ever seen, like, as opposed to have we ever seen natural laws before? Yes, absolutely. Have we ever seen God miracle anything before? No. And we've never seen God create anything out of dust. Like, it makes more sense. How? I don't understand that. I really don't. Wow.
Right? So yes, God created Adam out of the dust. When that happened, I don't know. What was the other part of the question?
When that happened, I don't know. Does it matter? Does it matter? I believe in an old Earth. The Earth is 4.6 billion years ago. And when were humans created out of dust? I don't know. Doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. Like, here we are sitting there going, okay, well, we've got this out of Africa. It happened, roughly, 100,000 years ago. We can we're trying to grasp it when humans and the transitional species from Australopithecus to Ardipithecus to Homo habilis to, all of these different things. And it's like, well, when we'll go, I don't know. Doesn't matter. Really. That's wild. That's wild. I mean, seriously, that's scientific, Frank. That's science right there. That's science. Makes more sense. Man out of dust makes more sense than natural laws. When? Oh, I don't know. Wow.
How does creation and evolution play into the Genesis account?
Well, first of all,
Or
I think macroevolution is false on the merit.
Macroevolution is false on the merits. So here's the thing. Macroevolution and microevolution are exactly the same thing. It's the same process, right? Like, it's like saying, well, I think that I think that centimeters are true, but meters, actually, sorry, most of my audience is American, so I'll American it up for you. I'll use freedom units. It's like saying, well, I think inches are true, but yards is false on the merits, right? Or miles is false on the merits. It's exactly the same thing. So macroevolution and microevolution, they're just split into those to designate sort of, it's almost an arbitrary, it's an imaginary line between the two. It's an imaginary demarcation, if you will. So once a organism has evolved sufficiently to speciate from another, or another type of organism, and through geographical removal or some kind of limit to their interbreeding, or has significantly changed, basically we call it macroevolution, right? But it's exactly the same process. And you might say, yeah, but there's a lot of confusion over what makes species a species, and there's a lot of confusion over it. There's a lot of disagreement over what exactly makes speciation. And the reason why that is because if everything is related, then we should expect there to be a lot of confusion over what makes a species, right? Because basically we're saying, hey, everything's related to other things. And when we say that is a species, it is a human designation. It is a demarcation that we've more or less invented, rather than, these two things were kinds and were never related in the first place. That bleed over into one another is exactly what we'd expect out of evolution. And when we say macroevolution, it is just a term that was used to describe when two organisms that shared a common ancestor became genetically dissimilar to one another through a number of different processes. So when he's saying macroevolution is false on the merits, that's exactly the same as saying microevolution is as well. It's no difference. There's no difference between the processes at all. And this sort of, I believe in microevolution, not macroevolution, is like saying, well, I believe in inches, but not miles, right? It doesn't make any sense. There's no difference between them. It's exactly the same process, exactly the same thing. And what merits is it false on? I think this is just a glib answer by Frank Turek to try and say, it's false on the merits. What merits? We'll find out, because apparently he's doing the 4 best. This is the 4 best arguments. Oh, boy.
Not because the Bible... Leave the Bible out of it for a minute.
I would love to. Yes. Let's leave the Bible out of it let's leave the Bible out of it forever. That's a good idea. Let's leave the Bible. Let's stop this magical thinking. Let's dump the Bible from our science altogether. I'm right there with you, Frank. Right there with you.
When you look at the evidence for macroevolution, I not only think the evidence is weak for macroevolution, there's very strong evidence against it.
No, there is not. No, there is not. There is a lot of apologetics against evolution. That is all that there is. Apologetics. There is massive amounts of evidence for evolution. Now, the strongest is genetic evidence. Has to be, definitely. Like, ERVs absolutely demolish any idea that macroevolution did not happen. It is absolutely, and this is the thing. Outside of a certain right-wing fundamentalist sort of paradigm, this isn't even a question. This isn't even an argument. It's kind of, yeah, scientists aren't confused about this. It's a settled science. It's kind of like, there's a lot of evidence against the sky is blue. No, there really isn't. There isn't at all. The best they can do is try to sort of make up things that say, well, you're not 100% sure. Yeah, we're never 100% sure about anything. But there is overwhelming evidence. And I'm sure he's going to bring up these amazing evidence against it. There's a lot of evidence. So keep in mind that's what he said. A lot of evidence against it.
Okay? I'll just give you a few real quickly with the acronym LIFE, L-I-F-E.
And Frank loves doing this kind of stuff. He loves his acronyms. He loves his initializations. They're catchy, that people like them because they can remember them easily. It's kind of just what he does. Like Frank Turek, number one, is a showman. That's what he is. I believe his background is in like some kind of marketing, I think, or like management. He isn't a scientist. He doesn't understand the actual science behind it, does not understand anything about it. Yeah, public speaker and radio host. I mean, seriously. But this is the thing that's gotten me lately. These people will come out without studying it at all, without even investigating it, and just regurgitate these talking points like they've got some kind of hold on evolution. Like he hasn't studied it, he hasn't looked at it, he hasn't delved into it. He is just regurgitating crap. So let's see, what's this life? So this is obviously the four arguments against it. I mean, it's like he says, oh, there's a lot of evidence against it, and then he's going to go on to arguments, right? Like that's basically what he's going to do.
L stands for the fact that there's a limited capacity for change. Like, for example, dog breeders try and breed dogs, right? And they get a dog as small as a Chihuahua and as large as a Great Dane. But even with all their intelligence, they can't break the genus of dogs. Why do we think a non-intelligent process can break that genus?
We don't. That's the thing. So the law of phylogeny says that a dog will always be a dog, a human will always be a human. We will always be mammals. We would always be vertebrates. We will always, like, it only changes what's already there. So no, we don't think we can, like, break the genus isn't a thing. Okay, it's not a thing, right? It's not. But you do get not just sort of species coming out. You also get subspecies. Now, don't forget, he's saying genus, right? But there's species as well. So what happens is that genus, through geographical isolation, through simple social isolation, they will split and go off in two directions. Those make two different species, and from their subspecies. For instance, there's domestic dogs and there's wolves. Now, Frank would think they're the same thing, right? But one's Canis familius lupus, and the other's Canis familius domesticus. I think it's domesticus. Like the domestic dog, they've split, right? Because we've split them. Now he's saying, oh, we can't break out of this genus. But what limits it, Frank? Like, we've only had dogs domesticated, I think, for about 50,000 years. I'll double check that. Like, we've only domesticated wolves over, like, thousands of years. And we've seen that amount of change in them. What happens when it goes to millions? Or what happens then? I don't know what he thinks. Yeah, 20 and 40,000 years. 20 and 40,000 years. The earliest definitive evidence for a domesticated dog dates to about 15,000 years ago. Right, right. So somewhere around there, right? So look at how much they've changed from wolves to the pug, right? To a pug dog. In say, let's give it, the upper end, 40,000 years or so, right? 40,000 years, that's happened. Now, what happens when you extend that to millions of years, Frank? Millions. Like, what is limiting the change? And this is what amazes me is this is a Hovind argument. We've only seen dogs come from dogs. It's that bad. And I didn't know Frank Turek was this bad with his arguments. Because he's saying, hey, there's a limiter on how much an organism can change. Really? What is that, Frank? How do you show that? Because we don't seem to find that in nature. We don't. That doesn't seem to happen. There's nothing in the gene code to say, hey, mutations can't continually alter something. What is it that is limiting it? Because at the moment, we've just basically, say, well, we've only got dogs that are very dissimilar from one another. Yeah. Over, 40,000 years maximum? Like, what is limiting them? He doesn't know. I mean, there's going to be some limits on the size that a dog can get, like large-wise, because it's I think it's a square cubed law or something. It's something about the size in physics. If you start to get higher in size, you cannot produce the energy required to sustain your body mass. It's something like that. It's a very physics constrained thing. But apart from that, I don't think there is a limit on it. And we can see, like, cows, for instance. You might say, hey, there's a limit on we've got some massive cows out there.
Break those limits. Doesn't make any sense, right? The I stands for irreducible.
It doesn't make any. It does make sense. Like, what limits? Like, you can't just say, hey, there's limits, and then basically go, well, I've proven it because we've only got thing. If we said, hey, the smallest dog is the size of a Chihuahua, and then someone comes up with a smaller dog, you would say, well, now there's the limit. And if it gets even smaller, Frank would say, well, there's the limit. He really is just shifting the goalposts here. And he said the biggest was a Great Dane. I don't think the biggest dog is a Great Dane, a size-wise. Yeah, so actually the tallest was, the heaviest breed is a Mastiff called Zorba. The height, it was a Great Dane, yeah. Oh my god, that's a big dog. All right, okay, I'm just looking. Yeah, well, I mean, apparently, give me one sec. Sorry, I'll just get this open image. Yeah, there we go. Apparently, this is like the biggest. Apparently, that's not CG. Apparently. And being like sort of Kent Hovind. Oh, but it's still a dog. Yeah, it is. It will be still a dog, just as we will still be humans, even if if you have one set of humans on Mars and one on Earth, they will speciate. They will go for, one will be Homo sapiens, Marsensius, and one will be Homo sapiens terran, and they will speciate. If we just breed among two different groups, they will speciate. they will still be human, because we will always be human, because that's how the law of phylogeny works. You always inherit your phylogeny. You can't escape it. Yeah, Irish wolfhounds are overall the largest. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I get you. But, you know, where are these limits, and how did you find these limits? Because every time you say, well, that's the biggest dog, a bigger one comes along. So where are these limits? No idea. And, you know, he's not pointing to anything. He's just claiming that, hey, there's limits on how much an organism can change without any evidence whatsoever. That is a baseless claim.
Complexity. And
oh,
Michael
boy.
Behe introduced this back in 1996 with his book Darwin's Black Box, where he points out that there are so many aspects of living things that you can't build gradually, that they're irreducibly complex, that all the pieces and all the parts have to be in place in working order to have any function at all.
Yeah, so irreducible complexity has absolutely been blown out of the water, especially with the trial that Behe proposed it in. This went to trial, Kitzviller versus Dover, and he proposed irreducible complexity. Now, the problem is that his main thing of irreducible complexity was the bacterial flagellum, and that is what you would call a motor, essentially, that basically allowed bacterium to move. It's not a literal motor, it's just that's what we describe it as. But the problem is that the scientists showed that that could be sort of made from a type 2 injectosome, something that injects things. So basically these are adapted to new functions. In that trial, because one of Behe's thing is, well, a mousetrap can't work if it doesn't have the spring and the board and, you know, the latch to activate it. It needs all of these things to function. But one of the scientists basically wore part of the mousetrap, just the trap part, the spring part, as a tie clip, right? So these things can have other functions, and then slowly over time they change their functionality, and that is something that can happen. So the irreducible complexity has been so debunked, and I love that he's going to like one of the most debunked things, because there is a property in evolution called I believe it's the table proposition. It basically says that in order to make a table, you've got to have the two legs kind of thing. But there's other ways to do it. Maybe you have 3 legs to start out, or you need all 4 legs. Maybe there's 5 to start out that props up one part, and then you take away one of the props. It's sort of the theory of irreducible complexity. I should have looked this up last night. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I'm trying to find an illustration that would show you exactly what I mean. So basically it would be like having a supporting structure which is then taken away. So you're sort of like, well, you know, this couldn't have formed by itself. Well, no, there were other parts to it, and those other parts said no. Like basically it said that those other parts are then removed afterwards, so it looks like it is an entire structure that requires everything to be there to function, because it was lacking the structure that had to support it while it was developing. I hope that made sense. But, you know, they're not seeing it with these supporting structures, so they're like, oh, it needs all of this stuff to be working perfect. Well, no, it had supporting structures in the past.
You can't get there gradually. Like you can't get, Richard Dawkins talked about, well, maybe our eyes were developed through some sort of gradual process where we had at first sort of light-sensitive cells, and then they eventually evolved into an eye. What Dawkins doesn't seem to realize is that light-sensitive cells are irreducibly complex themselves, and that to get to an eye, light-sensitive cells aren't a prerequisite to an eye, and you'd have to have vision the whole way through.
Wow, Frank's an idiot. He's an absolute idiot. So the problem is that you don't have to have vision all the way through, right? Like, okay, so what we're talking about is mollusks, for instance, and I probably have a picture. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So, what it starts out with is a pigment spot, right? Like just a spot on the mollusk that's basically just got photoreceptor cells. All it tells the organism is whether they are in dark or whether they are in light, right? Which is incredibly useful because it can say, hey, are you hidden or are you out in the open? That's all it does, right? Like that's all that it does. Incredibly useful. It's not vision. Right, he's sort of saying, hey, it has to have vision all the way through. No, it doesn't have to have vision all the way through. All it has to be is useful. That's it. Right? That's all. Then a pigment cup, right? You've got a photoreceptor layer. It's got a curve in it as that is selected for because it's useful to know where the light is coming from and where the darkness is. So that sort of cup will give you sort of an idea of, in what direction is the light coming. Right? And where the light is stronger, the directionality. That's all it will do. It's not vision. It'll just tell you that. That's all. Next, we have like it curved in with a water-filled cavity. That will give you a lot better sort of knowledge of where it's coming from because it focuses through this hole here. So like a pinhole lens. Yeah, exactly, a pinhole lens. And this is in the Nautilus mollusk. So it'll be a lot more focused, so a lot more accurate, and it's also protected kind of thing. A marine snail, the murex, it has an epithelium over the top and a refractive lens. So it's just improving upon that directionality, how precise it is. And then you have the octopus, which is a complex eye, right? So this explains how it develops over time. And we can see this in multiple animals. So, thanks, Sterling. I appreciate it. Look, I don't have to tolerate stupidity to get a like. I hope you would do it because you enjoy the show, but hey, you do you, boo. You do you. So yeah, we can see the development. Like these earlier stages, they don't have to have vision, right? Like he's sort of suggesting they have to have like visual photoreceptors in order to... No, they just need photoreceptors. They just need to be useful in telling them where the light is. That's all at the start. From there, we progress towards, because, being able to tell shapes, for instance, is incredibly useful, right? Not just to say, hey, where is the sunlight, but to say, hey, that's an enemy. That's incredibly useful. So it progresses as it goes along, but it doesn't mean that it just goes from no vision to vision all at once. And this eye thing is just absolutely ridiculous. Like, we know how eyes form. It's stupid that he's just sort of using this example. And basically the temerity of a guy with a bachelor's in administration is telling a evolutionary biologist like that he's just mistaken. I'm sorry, when is your paper coming out on that, Frank? When is your paper on how the eye can't develop is coming out? I'd love to know. I'd love to know. Because this is the hokey stuff that he does. Oh, Dawkins was wrong about the eyeball. Well, it's not just Dawkins in the field. There's a ton of people in the field that contributed to this.
With all the parts there at the same time. So it does.
No, not all of the parts at the same time. It's gradual improvement upon the parts over time, a long amount of time, as it helps them, is it's useful. It's because photoreceptors are more useful than not photoreceptors. A pinhole to focus the input is more useful than not. It's that a cornea to protect it is more useful than not. Like, this is the thing. He is so bad at science that he doesn't even understand that nobody is saying that it all evolved exactly at once. That it just went from a blind mollusk to one like an octopus, like a cephalopod eye, just appeared. No, nobody is saying that.
Doesn't work. The F stands for the fact that the fossil record does not comport with macroevolution. It comports with instantaneous creation, because according to their dating...
I think you can hear someone booing in the background there, and I'm not surprised. The fossil record does not comport with evolution is one of the most bafflingly wrong things I have ever heard in my entire life. It comports with instant creation.
The Cambrian explosion, where most major body phyla or body plans appear in the geological record about 530 million years ago in a geological instant. It looks more like creation rather than this long...
Okay. So the Cambrian explosion, when they say a geological instant, right, it's like millions of years. Okay, because we're talking about the Earth being 4.6 billion. So realize what he said there, a geological instant, right? Like, that isn't the same as an instant, right? It doesn't mean what he wants it to mean, which is a sudden, instant creation. No, that's not what a geological instant means. It means over the course of a few million years, right? Like, that's what they're talking about. The Cambrian explosion, yeah, there was a number of reasons as to why that took off. Like, there was sort of, flourishing of life, and intense diversification. But that is not an instant like you're trying to say. Environmental changes, biological interactions, opening in niches in certain areas. Like, no, Frank, you're not representing that correctly. The fossil record also, and again, the Precambrian bunny. Yes, the Cambrian bunny. Yes. So when you look at the fossil record, there is certain places in that strata. So stratigraphy is basically understanding how the strata is laid down. And Frank doesn't disagree with this, right? He's an old Earth creationist. So he thinks the strata was laid down, sediment being compressed, into layers. That is stratigraphy, like understanding that. And as we go down, you get further back in time. And there is one part where, like, mammals start to emerge or fish starts to emerge. And before that, mollusks all the way, baby, until it gets to single-cell organisms, like down at the very bottom. There are certain points where things will start to emerge in that fossil record. So the question is, why? Like, if everything was created in an instant in the Cambrian explosion, why are there no birds there, Frank? Why? And if they were created in an instant in the Cambrian, or the Precambrian, how did the birds get here? But instead, what we find moving up through the fossil record is a diversification of these animals and plants and everything else that have places where they start to appear, as if the earlier fossils are changing into the later ones. Essentially, that's what we get. And we see this everywhere. So this is just like, but sort of for him to say, oh, well, it's a geological instant and sort of intimate that God just magicked things into existence. No. No. Inaccurate representation. Bad Frank. Bad Turek. You stop that now. No, the Cambrian explosion, that they call it like, oh, it was suddenly this blossoming of life. They don't mean like literally there's nothing in the fossil record and there's like tons of animals there. Like, that's not what they're talking about. They're talking about a rapid diversification, not, oh, we didn't have anything there and then suddenly there is. No, that's not what they're talking about at all. There is still those sort of, the earlier fossils look like the later ones with variation in them, going all the way up through the record.
Long series of gradual fossils that we should find if macroevolution.
That's exactly what we find. The gradual fossils of things changing up through the stratigraphy. That's exactly what we find, sir. That's exactly what we find.
Were true. This is a great problem for Darwin. He said, if my theory's true, why isn't the geological strata filled with all these intermediate fossils?
Yeah, that's because they hadn't found them yet. Yeah, fun fact, that was like before paleontology was actually a thing. It just used to be naturalists finding fossils everywhere. And they're like, well, there should be a gradual progression of these fossils throughout the fossil record. You know what? We found them. Where are these transitional fossils? We announced them. Australopithecus, Ardipithecus. We've got Archaeopteryx. Right? Transitional fossil. It's basically in between a dinosaur and a bird. These have been found, Frank. Just because Darwin said, well, if my theory is true, there should be this progression of fossils, transitional fossils. We found them. Right. And a lot of the time they were predicted. Just because Darwin said, hey, this thing should be true, and we don't see them, he was basically saying, hey, if my theory is true, we should begin to find all of these transitional fossils. And we did. It's just you're coming along going, well, Darwin said we hadn't found them. In his day, Frank. When he was alive, like 200 fucking years ago, Frank. It's baffling. It's baffling. Like literally 200 years ago.
But don't worry, we'll investigate it and I'll be vindicated. Well, for the past 160 years, we've been investigating the fossil record, and Darwin isn't vindicated.
Whoa! Sir! Archaeopteryx? Australopithecus? What's the one, transition? Fossils. Tectonic? Like it is insane how many transitional fossils that we've found. Like it is insane. Like that is the biggest lie I have absolutely ever heard. Like, wow. Oh, he wasn't vindicated. He absolutely was. My guy. Like there's tons of them. Wow. It's kind of like, because almost every fossil is transitional. Wow. That's incredible. That's the yeah. I mean that's just for human transitionary fossils as well, Left-Handed Jedi, where it's talking about, who was it? Dr. Bongo, whatever his name was, the the orangutan. I think it was Dr. Bongo. Maybe not. It was in Futurama. Dr. Banjo. Yeah, Dr. Banjo. Yeah. Yep.
Okay, there are huge gaps in the fossil record, and E stands for something known as epigenetic information, and that is the idea that there's structures in the cell that are required for life and for the cell to function that can't be modified by mutating DNA, and you can't modify epigenetic information by mutating it.
So, as you can probably guess, Frank's really struggling because he doesn't understand what epigenetics is, right? So, epigenetics are basically information in the genome which can be switched on and off depending on environmental factors. So, it's like adaptation, right? Like, so our genetics can switch on and off depending on, say we need more melanin in our skin because there's a lot of sunlight, right? Like we're getting a lot of sunlight, need more melanin in our skin. The genome can switch on or off which genes are expressed due to environmental factors, and absolutely they can change due to mutation. Okay, like for instance, albino, right? If you're albino, you cannot produce melanin. Doesn't matter. Right? It can absolutely change due to mutation. So number one, he's completely and utterly wrong. Number two, epigenetics is just adaptable genomes that are switched on and off depending on environmental factors, right? So it's not what he's sort of saying it is. There's structures that cannot be changed. No, that's not what epigenetics is. But of course, he doesn't understand what epigenetics is because he's never actually looked into this. And absolutely they can change due to mutation. Absolutely. 100%. I don't know why he would say that. Well, I know why. He doesn't understand it.
In other words, maybe an analogy would be if you have a software program in your computer, say an architecture program, to build a house, you can come up with a plan to build the house, but is the architecture program going to give you the nails, the wood, the lumber, the concrete to build the house? No, the architecture program is like DNA. It's the software. The hardware of a living thing is called epigenetic information. And in order to get a new body plan, you need to modify epigenetic information. The problem is if you try and modify epigenetic information early on in the embryonic process, the living thing dies. It's
No, it doesn't. No, that's not how gene expression works. No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. No. Epigenetics, if you're going to compare it to a program, okay, so you're comparing DNA to a program, which is a bit wrong. Look, DNA is not like coding like a computer program, okay? It just isn't. There's some comparisons that can be made, sure, but it's not exactly the same, and it's more, to my mind, like an instruction set than anything else. But if you're going to compare it to a program, it's basically like saying, it's like having a architecture plan as a program, or whatever the hell he's trying to say, that says that it has the option to have, say, shutters that are either there or not there, depending on what you need, right? Like depending on the level of sunlight, for instance, the shutters either present or don't present, kind of thing. That it's either the shutters are clicked on or and it's an imperfect analogy because we're talking about biological systems which can carry out functions that change the physiology. Sorry, that's the wrong word. well, they change the physical makeup of it, you know, of the organism, whereas a house can't do that. You know, like it doesn't go, well, I need more shutters, so I'm going to grow them. You know, that's not what happens. So it's an imperfect analogy, false analogy to begin with. And number two, it isn't like the hardware of a house kind of thing. And when you change it, it dies. No, that is not what happens. Right? As I said, an albino, they can't produce melanin. That's melanin production is an epigenetic trigger. If you need it, it will change the, it will express different characteristics. Like, so you don't necessarily die. It's so stupid. Like, he doesn't actually understand what epigenetics is. Epigenetics is the environment causing changes in the the DNA that change which genes are expressed and which are not expressed. They are turned on and off by the environment. But he doesn't understand that because he doesn't understand anything. It is really bafflingly bad to say, hey, you know, if you change the epigenetics, the child will die in as an embryo. No, it won't, Frank. It's epigenetics is designed. I mean, that's a bad word. Its purpose is to change. It's supposed to be reactive to the environment. So no, it won't die in the womb. Yeah, if you get certain mutations that affect epigenetic triggers that can't turn on and off, it is bad news for that organism. If it's deleterious, if it's advantageous, it is good news, right? Like that's the whole thing that he's missing. Those mutations don't have to be bad. And it depends on environment, right? Like if you have no ability to produce melanin, but you're an organism that lives in the dark, that never gets out into the sunlight, that's a huge advantage. You're not spending resources on something that you don't need. It's a huge advantage. But of course, someone like Frank will never understand how epigenetics works. Temporal variation. Yeah. So basically, it determines which proteins are generated and which are not. So gene expression. You know, I get it. It's not what Frank's saying that it is. It's a bafflingly bad. And you can sort of see he's very hesitant as well. He doesn't understand this, but he's basically trying to pretend to be really knowledgeable about this.
Lethal. So this is why on November 7th, 2016, in London, the Royal Society called together a meeting. And the premise of the meeting was the Darwinian theory of evolution doesn't work. We need to find a new theory. So they all met.
Really, that was the name of the meeting, Frank? Was that the name of the meeting? Was that the name of it? The theory of evolution with Darwin doesn't work? Is that you know what the name of the meeting was? I don't think that was the name of the meeting. I think the name of the meeting was New Trends in Evolutionary Biology. Yeah. And it wasn't that, hey, it doesn't work. That is not what anybody said. Oh, Ruth Robinson, thank you so much. Became a commentator. Enjoy your emotes. Another. Oh, you just reminded me. Ruth Robinson. You reminded me. I've got some readerships to send out your way or your thing. So thank you so much, Ruth. You've just reminded me that I've got stuff to share. That's awesome. But enjoy your emotes and other benefits. Please do. Please do. But you've just reminded me that I can send out some stuff. Hang on a second. See, I wanted to do it in my last stream, which was a couple of days ago. But unfortunately, Google forces me to be on American time, so I can't actually do that. So yeah, it's just trolling me. So on the 1st, when it's my 1st, it's still not the new month in America. So, you know, there's that thing. Hold on a second. G'day, Ruth. Yeah, thanks so much. You just reminded me that I got these to send out. So we'll put this idiot on pause for a second. Bam, bam. Love it. Love it. Let me get my announcer voice out. And those go out to Alice McGee. What happened? They're not coming up in my chat, so I can't highlight who got them. How rude. How rude. Hang on, I'm going to have to go to my other chat because they didn't come up. Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And also Ryan Donovan. Oh, received a gift membership. Where's the rest of them? Okay. Okay. That went to Alice McGee, Mr. Anderson, Sapphire, Equatorial Pose, Light, The Unlucky, Legume, Ryan Donovan already got one. Okay, fantastic. Winners, chicken dinners. Enjoy your emotes and other benefits. I hear the band hammer's quite popular. There you go. Sean McDowell? No, I didn't. But he's definitely on my radar. Definitely on my radar. I've got to write that down. I just you know, Frank's he kind of is arrogant enough to sort of pretend that he knows what he's talking about, but he's so not knowledgeable about the subject that he's really stammering it. Yahooligan says, member for 24 months. Felt like more like 48 months. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. I don't know. Update me. Is that a good or a bad thing? Time flies when you're having fun, I guess. And I am seeing you tonight or you're tomorrow morning, Yahooligan. I'm going to be over on Skeptic Spin doing a reading for, like, we're going to be reading right-wing children's books and commenting on them, which is going to be terrible. It's going to be terrible. It's going to be awful. I'm going to love every second of it. So, yeah. It's going to be absolutely horrible. Why isn't it coming up? Have you put a link up yet that I can share with people? Have you actually done that or just not? No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. No, it's cool. It's cool, mate. It's not a problem at all. Not a problem. Anyway, get it out to me so I can share it with the people because I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And I think I'm going to be horrified, but you know that's part of the fun.
There in 2016, they pointed out several problems with neo-Darwinian theory, and they didn't come up with a new theory because there isn't one.
No, they did. Neo-Darwinian theory is not what we're using. It's called integrated synthesis. So there used to be the modern synthesis, which was the sort of adding up what we knew. Like, neo-Darwinism is so old now. We've come a long way since then, especially since Darwinism, and they didn't have any new ideas. No, what that 2016 conference it was new ideas in evolution. It was like, how do we update it? There's a lot of new things. There's endogenous retroviruses, right? Which I love that as a subject because it is so devastating for the arguments against evolution. And we've got to incorporate that because it's not just recombination or the parent's DNA, and it's not just mutation, right? We realize that a lot of change has actually been horizontal gene transfer, right? Like viruses writing onto our DNA and those viruses being co-opted to help us, right? Wild stuff, but we've got a lot of evidence for it. Stuff like that. Stuff like endosymbiosis, right? So when one organism swallows another one, and we've seen this with nitroplasts, right? Like a plant swallowed a nitrogen-generating organism, nitrogen-generating bacteria, and those two started working in harmony. The plant gave energy to the nitrogen-producing bacteria, and the bacteria generated nitrogen for the plant, right? And then what happened was that the bacteria became an organelle for the plant cell. So it actually became a part of the plant. Just incredible stuff. So this is the kind of thing they were starting to get into. It's because when we have a theory, we don't just say, well, that's it, nothing more to see here. We just rest on our laurels. But it was not, the conference was not, hey, Darwin's wrong and evolution has nothing going for it. That was not the conference. It was what other ideas in evolution are there and how do we integrate them into our understanding of evolutionary theory, mutation, natural selection, that kind of thing. Well, it produced integrated synthesis, right? Like all of these things integrate into one. So Frank's just out and out. Either he's lying or he's too ignorant. Hey, Ryan, how you doing? So good to see you. So good to see you. Yeah, no, you get some sleep. You get some sleep. Totally understand.
Okay. So not only is the evidence for...
Yeah, I agree with the person yelling up the back. Liar.
Macroevolution weak, in my opinion. There's...
Who cares about your opinion? You don't even understand that macroevolution and microevolution aren't two separate things. It's like saying, hey, with distance, inches and miles are totally different. No, they're not. One's just an extension of the other. There's no difference between them. Like, it's just a measurement. And that's all macro and microevolution is. It's just a measurement. It's a imaginary demarcation to say, hey, once it reaches a certain point, we're going to call it macroevolution. It's not a real thing.
Evidence against it, and I just gave you 4. I could go on. Okay, so I don't think it works. But look, let's suppose
I've just given you 4. I could go on. Now, please do. Please do. I want to hear. And this is supposed to be the evidence against them, right? The evidence against evolution. It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. Really terrible.
Revolution is true. Does that mean there's no God?
No.
Does that mean Jesus didn't rise from the dead?
No.
No. So even if it's true...
Yeah, that's a good point. You know, evolution doesn't show that a God doesn't exist. It doesn't show that Jesus didn't rise from the dead. That's not what we're... Like, they seem to think that all we're doing with evolutionary biology is just go, oh, how can we disprove Jesus? That's not what we're doing. Like, yeah, it doesn't disprove a God. It doesn't prove that Jesus didn't rise from the dead. It does prove that your Bible is wrong about how humans came to inhabit this earth. But fundamentalists like Frank, he can't admit that his Bible is wrong. You know, like, cannot admit it. So, you know, he will continue to bash evolution even though he doesn't understand it. He doesn't understand it.
It doesn't defeat Christianity. I just don't think it's true based on the merits. And if macroevolution...
He doesn't think it's true because he has faith that his Bible is right. And the Bible doesn't say, hey, we evolved from a more basal simian species over a long period of time. That's his problem. Because the Bible can't be wrong, right? It can't have just been a whole bunch of people who didn't understand science throwing together their mythology, mostly based upon Sumerian and you know, Babylonian mythology. Couldn't be that. It's, you know, much more likely to be a magic guy creating humans from dust. Yeah, no, that's much more plausible.
True, the natural laws that drive it are still created by a lawgiver who created these laws and sustains them. So you're not getting rid of you're not getting rid of God, even if it's true.
That's not what evolutionary biology is for. It's not an answer to God or anything like it. It's just like it is scientific investigation. Like it is just, hey, what do we observe in the world around us? Can we test for that? Does this have supporting evidence? And does it explain a lot of things? Hell yeah, it does. It's not there to try and tear down his God. The fact that it sort of conflicts with what your book says is your book's problem. A lot of Christians just accept evolution and say, hey, yeah, the Bible, it's talking about spiritual truths, whatever that means. Hey, at least they accept evolution. Wow, it's wild to me that you're saying, hey, I don't accept evolution on its merits. But a man created out of dust by magical ritual, now that is a story I can get behind. I mean, seriously? What merits does that have exactly? My Unfinished Song, thank you so much, mate. Hail Mark, evidence and the progress of knowledge. Yeah, and this is it. We just want to progress knowledge. Yeah, no, right on. I'm 100% on board. Look, we follow the evidence no matter where it leads, even if it conflicts with your favorite book, Frank. Sorry about that. You know, sorry, not sorry. It's sort of like your inability to deal with our understanding of the world conflicting with your book is not our problem. It's just not.
So would you say, sorry to keep going, but would you say that just the world probably developed for a few million years and then God just put Adam in just a random set of time?
Well, it wasn't random according to God.
Of course.
I don't know when Adam came into existence. There's all sorts of different theories. William Lane Craig has a theory. He wrote a book called The Historical Adam, which I haven't read yet, so I can't recommend it. I don't know. There's a four view.
Oh, William Lane Craig is doing a biblical... Wait, I gotta see this. I didn't even see this before. Hang on. This is great. A biblical and scientific exploration. Really? WLC is doing science now. Yeah, okay. Push X to doubt. A couple of susses in the chat, I think, for that one. Holy crap. William Lane Craig giving scientific explanations. I don't know about that one, champ. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think William Lane Craig is giving scientific explanations? I don't know about that one. I don't know.
I don't know. There's a Four Views book on the historical Adam that's coming out. William Lane Craig is a contributor to it. I just got an email that it's coming out, but I haven't seen it yet because it's not out yet. So there's a...
look at the blink available now, blinking in the background. Buy my DVDs. I've got something that explains all of this Adam stuff when Adam came to the earth. Buy my DVDs.
A lot of different views, and whichever side you come down on, it doesn't defeat Christianity.
Amen.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. It's not trying to. It's not trying to. That's not what evolution is about. It's not trying to. It just explains the progression of fossils that we see. It explains the interesting things in our DNA. It explains a whole ton of stuff. It explains why viruses can reactivate. It explains a ton of stuff. One thing it's not trying to do is address the God question. That's not what evolution is for. Hey, Joe. Good to see you, buddy. Okay, so that's the first video I have. Now, I know it was really, really, really short. So I wanted to grab another couple of Frank and really just smack him around a bit. Sorry, Frank. Sorry, mate. You know, if you're going to be speaking authoritatively on evolution, I've got to give you, you know, a good pummeling, because seriously, mate, that was tragic. The fact that he spoke so badly about epigenetics, mate, we can see that you have no idea what you're talking about. Like, everybody can see it. And you're stumbling, you're going, oh, it's like a plan with a building. It's really not. No. No. Nothing like that, in fact. Because buildings, once they're constructed, don't adapt, right? They don't change in order to do things, you know. Maybe if you had like a smart building with a program in it that could change the building depending on what the building's environmental fact, maybe you would have a point there. But
how do you respond to the assertion against intelligent design of the anthropic principle, if you've heard of that. Thanks.
Okay, the anthropic principle, meaning that we just...
Okay, so watch Frank stumble over what the anthropic principle is. Just before we go on, the anthropic principle is basically, it's sort of a human-centered idea. Like, so because we have evolved in a certain environment, we sort of look around and say, oh, well, this environment is perfect for us, right? We've got, you know, all of these things that are kind of perfect for us to live in. It's more generally called the weak anthropic principle. It basically, another way to look at it is that because we have developed in this world, then it looks perfect for us because that would be the outcome of us evolving in this world. If there was, like, you know, instead of being, you know, apple trees and vegetables and things like that, we instead evolved to eat, you know, limestone and silica, and, you know, I don't know how that would work. Please don't get into the biology of that, because geoid biology is ridiculous. Look, you know, if we'd evolved it, we would look around and say, hey, it's perfect for us. There's all of these silicoids around that we can eat, kind of thing. That's more the point of things. That because we have survived in this environment. Now, the strong anthropic principle is kind of like an extension of that. It's kind of like saying, well, the only reason we can look round to say, hey, we exist and survive, isn't that unlikely, is because we did exist to survive. So, for instance, if the human species went extinct, there would be nobody looking around going, isn't it amazing we survived? Right? So if the universe was incapable of sustaining life, we wouldn't be here to say how amazing it is that the universe sustains life. That's basically what it says. It's like, and I'll use a couple of analogies to try and illuminate it a bit more. It's like somebody winning the lottery and then going, isn't it amazing that it's incredibly unlikely, but I won the lottery. Well, the lottery's going to be won by somebody, right? Like, somebody's going to win the lottery. Eventually, it's going to happen. Somebody always does. It's always going to be somebody looking around and saying, hey, isn't it amazing, out of all the people out there, I won the lottery, right? But it's always going to be somebody. The fact that it's you doesn't mean that it's unlikely, because someone always will. And it's kind of this backwards thinking that we say, hey, isn't it incredible that I won the lottery? Well, if it was George over there, if it was Frank over there that won the lottery, then he would be sitting around going, well, isn't it amazing that I won the lottery? Right? So it's kind of that sort of narrow focus of, isn't it amazing that this unlikely thing happened to me? Well, yeah, but that doesn't mean it wouldn't have happened to someone. Douglas Adams does a really good analogy for the weak anthropic principle, which is sort of a puddle analogy. And that's where it rains, a sentient puddle is formed in a hole, and the puddle goes, well, isn't it amazing that this hole formed perfectly for me to fit into? Right? So that's the weak anthropic. It's basically the puddle going, oh, isn't it amazing that this hole just formed exactly perfectly for me? Instead of thinking, well, I formed to suit the hole. And that's sort of what we're saying about humans. It's like, oh, well, we've got all this brain power. It couldn't have evolved by chance. It's amazing that it happened out of all these organisms, and everything around us is perfectly... But we formed in order to suit the environment around us, not the other way around. But I'm not sure if he even understands what it is, because his explanation is... Frank's explanation is terrible. Just let him go. Let him cook. Let him cook.
The reason this universe is fine-tuned, or if I understand your question here, is that we wouldn't be...
I love how he cuts away, right? You can see the cut, as he's got no idea what he's talking about. It cuts to a slide, and then a voiceover starts, right? So he's obviously gone back and done this later. That's really interesting to me of something that Frank does, right? Every time he's baffled on that stage and has no idea what he's talking about, it cuts away in his videos and shows you something else. Deceptive? Absolutely. Silly? Yeah, kinda. I mean, why can't he just go, remind me again, what is the anthropic principle? Remind me again what that is. Would be a really good idea. But, Frank, he's got this thing of authority. He really does want to pretend he knows everything about everything, but his explanations are absolutely terrible.
Here to observe the universe being fine-tuned unless it was. Is that what you're thinking? Which is true, but it doesn't explain anything.
The anthropic principle states that, of course, we find ourselves in a finely tuned universe.
Yeah.
If we didn't, we wouldn't be here if not. There's no other observation we can make.
Okay, first of all, that doesn't explain...
I suspect that's a soccer count. But thank you. I'll be here all 9. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Why the universe is fine-tuned. I'll give you an illustration. Let's suppose that we're playing poker and I'm the dealer, and I deal myself a royal flush. You go, oh, lucky. But then I do it 5 more times in a row. Now you're going, hey man, you're cheating, and I go, oh no, I'm not cheating.
I don't get this analogy. I really don't. Because that's not what the weak anthropic principle says, right? It kind of is, you find yourself at a card table, and anybody that doesn't have a 5-card, a royal flush has to leave the table. You find yourself at the table at the end of the night, right? The question is, did you get a 5-card flush? Well, yeah, but you can look at it like I'm really lucky, but if it started out with billions of people at the table, then, yeah, somebody was going to be left at the end of it, right? It's not like his analogy is so bad, so insanely bad, that it's baffling, and it doesn't really address the anthropic principle, because it's sort of, the anthropic principle is sort of saying, hey, instead of but I don't know about the dealer dealing yourself those cards. It's very strange for him to say that. I don't think he really understands the anthropic principle. It's kind of like, well, could it be that you changed for the environment rather than the environment changing for you? So I don't think he really understands it.
The only reason that you're upset is because we're in the universe where I get 5 royal flushes in a row by chance, and you wouldn't know that unless you existed. So what's more likely?
But the thing about unlikely probability is unlikely probabilities do happen. For instance, in bridge, there's basically a perfect bridge hand, right? Like it's a perfect hand of bridge that you can basically finish the game instantly. Now, I'm not a bridge player, so I don't know exactly what the hand is, but there is something as an impossible bridge hand. Each of the 4 players receives all 13 cards of the same suit, and it has happened, right? This is odds of 1 in 2.2 to the power of 2.2 times 10 to the power of 27, right? There has not been enough bridge hands dealt for that to happen. It is an insanely unlikely probability. And it has happened. Okay, so improbable events do happen. It is incredibly improbable that humans would not have been made extinct, considering 99.9% of species have gone extinct. But instead of looking and going, oh, well, we're still here, aren't we special? It's just we were the ones adapted to the environment. It's not like, it's very, very strange. It's very strange, the way that they're sort of going, well, it's this incredibly unlikely probability. It couldn't possibly have happened without somebody doing it, without somebody selecting it for you. Well, so's winning the lottery. Like my earlier example. Like, you winning the lottery is incredibly unlikely. But if somebody wins the lottery, someone's going to turn around and say, hey, wasn't I incredibly lucky? Yes. Yes, you were. That doesn't mean it can't happen. In fact, with the lottery, it will happen. Not just it can't, maybe it will happen. Okay, so, this entire thing is just not understanding what the anthropic principle is.
That I'm cheating, or we just happen to be in the universe where I get 5 royal flushes in a row? What's more likely? It's more likely I'm cheating. I mean, you're not going to take that as an explanation. Well, if you weren't alive, you wouldn't be here to witness those 5 royal flushes in a row. That's not a solution. That's not
really the weak anthropic principle either. Not really what he's talking about. And yeah, like, if we were one of the species that had gone extinct, we wouldn't be sitting around going, hey, isn't it cool that we survived? No, we would be extinct, and a lot of, like, 99.9% of organisms are. So no. And this whole thing about a fine-tuned universe is that we don't know if, A, there's any other universes, like even ones that have collapsed earlier and this one has formed out of that collapse. We don't know. We don't know if the universe could form any other way. We don't know the probabilities. So the way that he's sort of stressing these probabilities, we don't know what the chances of this universe coming about is. Nobody does. Certainly not Frank.
an explanation.
Yeah, and I've got one more for you. Because I don't want to leave you wanting. I did warn that this one would be a bit shorter, but I've got one more. That's Frank explains why chance is terrible explanation for life. Yeah, no, he didn't explain it at all. He just failed to understand the weak anthropic principle. Just failed to understand it completely. Just incredible. This one is, what if someone never hears the gospel? And I found this interesting, right? What if someone never hears the gospel, right? What happens to them? And like you can see, he just goes after students, you know.
So you're a very logical person. Probably one of the most logical I've met.
Okay. Okay. Look, yeah, all right.
On the way here, me and a couple friends were discussing the scenario where someone somewhere in a desert, you know, lives on their own, lives their whole life. Nobody has preached the gospel to them. They die. Do they have salvation and do they get into heaven?
You're basically asking, what about those that have never heard? And I have a slide for that, but it's way over there.
Yeah, he's always got a slide, but never has it handy. I've always noticed that. That's actually a good question, though. If you are in a remote tribe and you never, ever hear of even the concept of God, right? What happens to you? Do you get sent to hell because you're not a believer in Jesus? Are you sent up to heaven to praise God even though you don't know this guy? Like, you get up there and you're like, what is going on, right? Like, you're like the guy who a friend dragged to a party. It's like, I don't know any of these people. Like, what is going on? You imagine that? You're just some tribes person in the desert somewhere. Like, suddenly you die and suddenly you're in front of these angels and stuff going, oh, you're expected to praise us. I'm sorry, who are you? Like, what am I doing here? Is that what happens, or do you go to hell and be tortured, like going, I don't even know what I did? As you descend into the fiery apocalypse. I don't know what I did. Regale us, Frank. Tell us the ways.
Okay. First of all, this is a moral question, right, Lion?
Yes.
Because if someone were to say, no, they don't go to heaven, then we would say, God, you're immoral.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, probably. Yeah. I mean, if you're punishing somebody for not believing in something that they never heard, then yeah, a little bit. Sure. That seems immoral to me.
Is God immoral if he knows that somebody is not going to accept the gospel if he never tells them the gospel?
It's a great question. I would say no.
Right, I agree. See, God knows who's going to believe and who doesn't.
This is really wild, right? Like, it's really wild because he's sort of saying, hey, God knows who will believe and who won't. So the people that don't hear about it are the ones that won't believe. But that hasn't been the history of, it's kind of this retroactive saying, well, they never heard about it because they wouldn't believe. But that doesn't seem to be the criteria that we see for, people not hearing the gospel. It seems to be people in remote locations, difficult for missionaries to get to, like the person alone in the desert kind of. It doesn't seem to be a criteria of whether they would believe or not. It's very strange, right? Like, it just seems to be people that never contact. But he's trying to make it out like God doesn't plan for them to hear it because he already knows they won't accept it. What, everybody in that remote tribe? None of them will? I don't know. It's so strange. So, but what occurs to me, and I'll let him go for a bit longer actually, and see what he says, but yeah.
And in Acts 17, Paul says that God has appointed the times and places where people should live so that some would reach out to him and find him, though he's not far from any one of us. In other words, it seems to say that God has oriented the world in such a way that those who hear the gospel, some of them will believe. It could be that people who never hear the gospel wouldn't have believed it anyway, right?
Right.
We know that there are people out there who...
So God has orientated it so that everybody that won't believe is going to be living way away, so that they won't hear about it and are thus condemned to hell. Really? I don't know about that one, Chief. That seems a bit dodgy to me. It seems like retroactively, accounting for people not hearing about it. It really does. It doesn't seem like it's a, I don't know how he justifies that. So people in the Amazon kind of thing, well, they're there because God put them there because he knew they wouldn't believe in him. So why did God put me in a Western culture then? Because I don't believe in him. Why didn't I get born as a person in the Amazon with no contact with Western culture and had never heard about the gospel? To be honest with you, now that I'm talking about it, it sounds really tempting, to be honest with you. Never heard of a Christian before. Oh, no, give me that life. give me the Amazon life with no Christians. Yeah, look, you know what I mean? Like, why put non-believers in Western... Like, it doesn't make any sense. If he's orientating it so, hey, there's people that won't believe that will never hear about him, then why do I hear about him? Because I don't believe. It doesn't seem like a criteria that matters, right? Whether you hear about it or don't hear it. I suppose if he wants to guarantee that you don't believe in him, he won't. I don't know how that works. I don't know how that works. It's wild, right?
Hear the gospel and don't believe it. Right? But it could be that those who never heard it wouldn't have believed it anyway. But there's nobody out there who's never heard that God exists. Everybody knows God exists by his effects, as we said before.
Yeah, no, that's not true. There's tribes in the Amazon that, I can't remember the name of the tribe, but they don't have a concept of God, much less know he exists. I can't remember the name of the tribe. It's a fascinating one. The Paraha. The Paraha. And they also have very strange concept of time as well, sort of not really looking to the future or to the past. They sort of see that as disconnected states. It's very, very interesting, but they do not have any concept of God at all. Any God, no concept at all.
There's a creation, there's got to be a creator. If there's a moral law, there's got to be a moral lawgiver.
Right.
Even the moral law that Matthew was talking about before, he has a moral law in his heart. Where does that moral law come from?
I don't think there is moral laws. I think that morals are something that we implement in societies, or rather ethical systems in societies that are guided by individual and intersubjective kind of moral goals, basically. So we might have a goal shared between people to make a healthy society. We might have it to be, a structured society. We may have a shared moral values within that. But I don't like. I'd love you to point to this moral law that is something. Pedaha. Okay. Pedaha. That sounds very strange.
If there is no God, it's just a socio-biological feeling. It's not really true.
Right.
Well, I don't know about that. That's something that's been leveraged against me in moral conversations, and sort of to say, well, it's a biological feeling. Well, if you're talking about human well-being, it's not up to my feeling whether something is causes cancer, a carcinogen, right? Like, that's not up to my feeling on it, right? That's going to be objective. If you cut off my hand, that's not going to be a feeling about my well-being. That's going to severely impact my well-being. If you allow people to go out and, end others, that's not going to be a feeling about it. That's going to be objectively bad for human well-being. The question is, why should we value human well-being? And that may be the subjective thing, why we value certain things like a functional society, the ability to have representation in our societies. Those may be subjective of what we want our society to be. But if you decide that human well-being is important, it's not just my feelings. So physical, societal, and mental health are not just, well, that's your feeling about it. We can actually measure those and quantify them. It's not just feelings. So I think Frank's really misrepresenting this.
All right. But if God does exist, and we really believe that there are these rights and wrongs, we reason back to a moral lawgiver, okay?
Well, no, I think that if there's any moral lawgiver, it will be the amalgamation, the interconnectedness of all the humans within a society. I'm talking about ethics rather than personal morals. So the problem with his argument, first I'll address the one about, well, he put people where he knows who will believe and who won't. And then the question becomes, if the goal of this world basically is a test in order to see who will get to the afterlife, what's the point? If God knows who will believe and who won't believe, and those souls are immortal, why doesn't God just skip the test if he knows the outcome and just put everybody where they're going to be? Right? Because if he knows who will believe and who won't believe, there's no point in running through the exercise. He knows the outcome already. He can just put the people in heaven that are supposed to be in heaven and the people in hell who he knows will disbelieve in hell. There's no point to all of this. It is simply going through the motions, even though he has the result and can implement it immediately. It doesn't make any sense. It's very weird. It's very, very weird.
So everybody knows there's a God, but everybody not everybody knows about Jesus.
Right.
We know that people in the Old Testament could have been saved without Jesus, not without his sacrifice, without knowing him. The Bible seems to indicate you have to know the name in order to be saved. So what do? We're obedient and we risk all to get people the gospel.
Why? Why? If God knows that some people will believe and some people won't and knows exactly who they are, why bother? You know, why doesn't he just assume, well, these people are going to get the word and they're going to disbelieve. These people will get the word and they're going to believe. They're the saved ones. Job done. I know it already, right? It doesn't make any sense. If you're going to say, oh, but you need to get it out there so people that wouldn't have heard from him, well, wait, but God's preventing people from hearing it because he knows that they won't believe. That's what Frank said. So it doesn't make any sense. He already knows who's going to heaven and who isn't. Why go through this farce? And don't get me wrong, this isn't what I believe. This is what they believe. Well, Frank apparently believes. Why go through this farce? I don't understand it. Why not just skip to the place where I'm burning in hell and, you know, Frank's gone to heaven? Why bother? Why all the suffering? What's the point? He already knows. And if you're going to say, oh, well, it's to give you a chance to make amends and things like that, God knows who will do that ahead of time. What's the point? So Frank's kind of just undercut his entire argument here about, you know, heaven and the reward and all of this kind of stuff, because he's basically said, hey, we know the results ahead of time and you can't change it.
Because we know that does save people. That if they know the gospel and accept it, they are saved.
Right.
But at the end of the day, since God is just, nobody in the afterlife is going to be treated unjustly. Either people are going to get justice or they're going to get grace. There's nobody who's going to say, God, if I had only known, God, you blew it, you didn't give me. Not going to happen. Make sense?
It does.
All right.
No, it doesn't. But it's kind of weird because in heaven, in sort of Revelations, it describes as sort of, you know, everybody in heaven just shouting, holy, holy, holy God, holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty kind of thing. Like, it doesn't sound great. But the whole idea is God is just, so let's work backwards and say God is just, and then apply it to everything. Again, it's like this retroactive, it's retconning, basically. Because they're like, well, you've got to hear the gospel and accept it to be saved. And it's like, well, what if you never get a chance to hear it? And he's like, well, because God's just, it has to be just. You know, this is what apologetics does. It starts with the conclusion and then works backwards to try and make it work. And Frank isn't doing a very good job because, I'm sorry, Frank is not a good apologist. He's not a good apologist. But he's really trying to make this thing make sense. So he says, well, if you never get to hear the gospel, then God knows you wouldn't have believed it in the first place. But that undercuts him, because then the question is, well, why bother doing it at all? If he knows that, hey, Frank's going to make this video and I'm going to go, oh, you've changed my life, I'm now a believer, I accept the Lord and Jesus, I've been saved, then he's already going to know that ahead of time. Why do the whole rigmarole here? Why go through the motions? And if he knows that I'm going to go, oh, well, I don't believe you, Frank, because you're a little pompous and, you know, you say some awful stuff and your logic doesn't make sense, so I'm going to still remain an atheist and I'm going to hell. He'll know that too. So what's the point? There's no point. Because the only reason we're here is to wait for the better world that's coming. There's a new world. This is a trial, a test, in order for us to, survive or to worship God and therefore be saved. So there's no point.
And this would be the same grace that would apply to, like, children who have unfortunately passed, or different things like that.
Yes. And
well, that's not what Frank said. He didn't say that the people off in some land who never hear about God get grace. He said that they're damned to hell, or he inferred that they're damned to hell because God knew they would never accept even if they did hear. So what then becomes of babies and things who they get grace apparently for reasons.
Bible seems to indicate, based on what happened to David's son, that
Right.
those babies are taken to heaven. But if that's not the case, God is still going to be just.
Yeah, and that's been a big problem for the Christian church over the years. So, especially during the Middle Ages, there was a massive problem with people, let's put it this way, sending their children to heaven to get them to avoid the horrible things of this world, right? Because if you give a free pass to children or babies going to heaven, some people will take that literally and, putting it gently, send them on their way, which is horrific. I think a woman in Queensland in Australia did that recently. They sent their children because they thought that, hey, they'd heard, from their pastors, from their priests, that this was a fallen world and they're in danger of sinning. So in order to, what she felt was to stop them from sinning and going to hell, she sent them to heaven on the early access program. Let's just put it that way. Absolutely horrific, right? Horrific. And some people do this. Now it's just it's horrific, absolutely horrific. Yeah, Elizabeth Strews. So yeah, that was one of them. It's just horrific, absolutely horrific, and yeah, it's terrible, absolutely terrible. And there's no reason to believe this. It doesn't make any sense. It's irrational, illogical. But people like Frank, who was like, oh yeah, I presume that they get a free pass, is doing damage, real damage to people. And what do you say? If they don't, we presume it will just be God is just, because God is just. Wow. All right. So on that optimistic note, Andrea Yates, yeah, it's happened a fair bit. Like, that's the thing. It's happened. Oh, good night, Ember. Take care. Thank you so much for dropping in. Ember's a really good friend of mine. She is awesome. But yeah, like, that's the thing. It's so sad, and it's so, like, these people aren't rational. They're not being rational, but there's a problem with sort of saying this kind of thing to irrational people. It's gonna have consequences, and it's not good. It's not good.
Here's another question. The children who pass, do they grow up in heaven, or do they stay in the
People
farm?
don't grow in heaven. All men are going to be infants in heaven.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I mean, that's not selling it for me. You're going to be a baby again. I'm not sure I want to be a baby again. I have so many questions. Like, who cleans up the diapers? What age? Like, what? That's horrifying. Like, you're a grown ass man with all the memories of your life, and you're basically a baby. All men. If the fact that he said this with a straight face is just hilarious. But that's a great question. I love this guy's questions. I mean, he might be a Christian, but he's asking the real questions. Do you grow up in heaven? Like, if a child, regrettably passes away and it gets a free pass to heaven, does it grow up in heaven? Asking the real questions. Salute, sir. But yeah, like, just without blinking. No, all men will be infants in heaven. Really? I don't want to be an infant. I touch. Wow.
It's true.
Children. Because we don't grow up while we're here.
Yeah, think about what you just said, sir.
Speculation, right?
Yeah.
What age are you going to be when you get to heaven? What age do you want to be when you get to heaven?
20. I don't know, Frank. You tell me, mate.
21. 21. Nolan said 21. Younger than this. Somebody in the back with a bad back said younger than this. Okay.
So Frank wants to be a stand-up comedian, but it is a good question. You know, well, what if the baby that passed away wants to be 21 as well? Does he just suddenly be 21? How does he learn everything? There's so many questions.
Okay. We don't know. Maybe 33. That was Jesus, right? Who knows? Yeah. All right. Thanks, Lion.
Thanks.
I love how he transitions from completely straight-faced saying all men will be infants in heaven, and then realizes how dumb it sounds and then goes, oh, you get to be whatever age, but it's all speculation. Well, then why did you answer so confidently, Frank? He was so confident. Like, oh, everyone's in infinite heaven. Oh, wait, that's going to be a problem, isn't it? Okay, well, it's all speculation. Come on, man. Seriously? Come on, buddy. Come on. You can do better than that. You can get better than that. Maybe you're ageless and timeless. No, stop, Mark. Stop giving the creationists ideas. Okay, stop. Like, I gotta stop thinking better than the creationists, because seriously, this is nonsense. It doesn't make a lot of sense at all. You know, I think that sort of either saying, hey, you're going to be whatever age you want to be, or you're an infant. But they're good questions. I think I might remember those. That's some really good questions from the guy here. I do like him. But I think that's about Frank. Yeah, that guy was pretty good. Pretty good. But yeah, that's Frank Turek asking the real questions. I really wanted to point out, though, I am absolutely flabbergasted, and I love that word, flabbergasted, at just how bad fundamentalists are at evolution and biology. Like, they just do not understand a damn thing about evolution, and, you know, if they understood more, it would be less insulting, like, really. If they understood what natural selection is, micro and macro evolution, the difference between them, no difference really. You know, that would be a lot less insulting, but it reminds me of a couple of debates that I've done against people that do not understand the first thing about biology and want to debate evolutionary biology. Like, it is bafflingly bad. And there's been a few absolute shockers out there. And you know, it's kind of like, I would get you're not a biologist, but at least understand the theory. Like, you know, I will say this for Donnie, you know, Dodgy Donnie Deals. He at least understands the theory. I don't think he's correct. I think he's completely wrong. But at least he understands it to a certain degree. Some of these people, they don't understand the first thing about it, and they want to debate because they're working from apologetics. They're working from what's the conclusion, how do I reach that conclusion? You know, and the conclusion is that God has created humans, evolution can't be right. How do I reach that conclusion? In Frank's case, it's you know, this acronym that he's got, this initialization that he's got, that's just absolutely terrible. You know, what was it, life? Just so stupid. You know, the fossil record doesn't support evolution. The guy will stand on the stage and says the fossil record doesn't support evolution. He will stand on the stage and say irreducible complexity, something that's never worked in the field and they keep getting shot down about, is evidence against evolution. No, it isn't. It's pseudoscience. It is absolutely pseudoscience. It is not recognized in the field. Nobody thinks it's a real thing. Behe took it to a court case, and Kitzmiller versus Dover, and it got absolutely trashed It is a non-starter, and they keep rolling it out like, you know, this time it's going to work. No, it's not. No. Absolutely not. No. I can't remember what his L one was, but the idea that because we have a conference on new ideas in evolution, that evolution isn't a thing. Like they're just saying, hey, we have no new... No. What are you talking about? It's just the way that science works. We do this in all fields. They will have fields. New ideas in physics, new ideas in astronomy. It doesn't mean that everything that we have done so far is wrong. It's not what it means. Not what it means. Anyway, that'll about do it for me. Again, I apologize. It's a shorter one. I am very tired, so I grabbed a shorter one. And yeah, I just have to have some rest. But that's okay. I really appreciate you coming. It's been fantastic. I've enjoyed laughing at Frank because I find him to be ridiculously bad. Like, it's not just slightly bad. It's ridiculously bad. It's absolutely ridiculously bad. What was the L? It was limits. Yeah, limits. You know, if you're talking about limits on dogs, they've only been around for 40,000 years max. 15 to 40,000. Let's wait a million and see what they look like. But do take care. Always remember, be kind to yourself. You deserve a break from things. I think I'm going to take a break from news. I think I've been watching way too much lately. I think I deserve a little break because don't watch too much news. If you're feeling the stress of it, definitely take a break. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to each other. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye, beautiful people.
She got